A 16-year-old girl was left frightened after she says she was sexually assaulted on a United Airlines flight. The teen was flying by herself from Seattle to Newark in July.
She and her mother, who want their identities protected, are talking publicly for the first time about the alleged incident. Anna Werner has their story.
Well, this was a big trip for that high schooler. She had won admission to a prestigious young women's academy at Princeton University. But she says her red-eye flight on United Airlines soon took a traumatic turn.
I knew what was going on, but I just thought I was dreaming or something. Like, this cannot really be happening.
The 16-year-old girl was traveling alone from Seattle, sleeping on her overnight United flight to Newark, when she says she awoke to find the stranger sitting next to her, touching her.
I could feel his hand on my thigh, and one of his hands had came between my legs, and he was rubbing me between my legs, and then he tried to put his other hand underneath my pants, and then I kind of woke up and I was like, what are you doing?
She reported it to a flight attendant who moved her to another seat a few rows up, but says she was terrified.
I just felt like he could see me, he could see wherever I was sitting.
And why did that terrify you?
Because there was just still so much time. I couldn't just leave the plane. I didn't have anyone. I didn't feel like there was anyone on the plane that could protect me.
And when the plane parked at the gate in Newark, the teenager says everyone simply walked off, including the man she says sexually assaulted her.
I literally thought I was going to die.
This is the 16-year-old's mother.
You thought you were going to die?
I'm 3,000 miles away. My child says she's been sexually assaulted, and I'm asking her questions, and she's disoriented. I'm like, well, where is he? Do you see him? And she said, he just walked by me. And I said, get the police, get United.
But her mother says when she finally got a United terminal supervisor on the phone,
at that point, the supervisor told me that United did not follow their own protocols. She said, you were the first person telling me of your daughter's assault. I don't have a manifest. I don't have a report. I don't even know who he is or where he is.
Later that day, police and the FBI, which handles incidents in the air, did track down a passenger and arrest him. Vijay Kumar Krishnappa, a visiting doctor on a fellowship, according to one medical center, is charged with one count of abusive sexual contact on an airplane. His attorney says Krishnappa adamantly denies the charges and deserves to be considered an innocent man. United did not answer CBS's questions, including about its protocol for reporting sexual assaults, instead saying in a statement, we take these allegations seriously and are working with the authorities. But family attorney Mark Lambert faults United.
The FBI wasn't waiting when the plane landed, so the perpetrator, the man who engaged in sexual assault, walked off the plane with a free pass.
The FBI reports in 2016 it conducted 57 investigations into sexual assaults on airplanes, up from 40 in 2015. It's a statistic this mother never knew.
If I had any inclination that she could be assaulted, I never would have put my daughter on that flight. I would have flown with her.
You said that he took something from you. What did he take from you, do you think?
He had no right to touch me. He had no right. I guess I would say he took my peace of mind.
You don't feel safe?
No, I don't feel safe.
Now, Krishnappa is currently out on bail. If convicted, he could face 2 years in prison, a $250,000 fine, and possibly be deported. Now, the FAA says that airlines regularly summon law enforcement in cases like this, such as an alleged crime reported in airspace by an airline. But Vlad and Anne-Marie, it's not clear that that ever happened in this case.
Anna Werner, thanks a lot. So joining us now from Phoenix are Mark Lambert and James Goodnow, the lawyers for the teenager at the center of this case. Gentlemen, when I heard about this case, particularly as a woman, I was disgusted. I felt for this young lady and what she says happened to her. But you say it's not just what happened to her. United is also at fault here. Why do you say that?
So, at this point, the family's focus is on awareness, making the public aware that this happened, and preventing this in the future. United, as a common carrier in the law, there's a duty that's imposed on an airlines that is of the highest magnitude. They are required to ensure that their passengers are safe, and United failed to do that here.
James, an FBI spokesperson, said the agency encourages all citizens who have been victims of a crime to report it to the flight crew and the FBI. This young girl did report it to the flight crew. But the question I guess a lot of people will have, is there enough regulation of these incidents by law enforcement?
Well, we know in this case is what happened on United 1695. You're exactly right that this young girl did what she was supposed to do and alerted the flight crew. Now, what happened from there is they essentially moved her up a few seats and offered her some peanuts. So that type of response on the part of United is problematic. That type of response is emblematic of a broader problem we're seeing over the past several months with United Airlines, starting with the Dr. Dow incident back in April.
Did they actually speak to the doctor at all at the time?
So ultimately, is our client was placed 6 rows or so in front of the perpetrator, and she didn't speak with him at that point. Thereafter, she was in fear for her life.
But what about the flight? What about the flight crew? Did they say anything to him?
So we're not aware. We're not aware of what the flight crew, if anything, said to the doctor. We're aware that it was reported by our client. She reported it to the flight attendant. He then moved her. He may have made a comment that wasn't cool, but that was the extent of it.
Wow.
It is remarkable that in this day and age, when people are getting tossed off flights for bringing on cakes or for not putting something in the overhead bin, that somebody who allegedly sexually assaulted a minor would still be allowed to come off that plane without any law enforcement waiting for him at the tarmac. Whereas if somebody did something that was, minor, you'd be met by TSA agents. I mean, is that part of what you're arguing here?
Yeah, the problem is that when you have a crime, it's a lot like a bag of marbles, and every marble represents a piece of evidence. So by United not alerting the authorities, what happened is they cut the top of that bag and all of the marbles scattered. Witnesses went in different directions. The perpetrator left the airport. The plane flew away. So now what we have to do is try and reconstruct what happened, gathering all of those different pieces. And had United done the right thing, alerted the authorities, we wouldn't be in this position.
In fact, when you're dealing with criminal charges, your emphasis from a law enforcement standpoint is on the crime scene. Here, the crime scene was washed because the perpetrator was allowed to leave the plane scot-free.
Right.
Well, we should point out,
I think we were going to say the same thing, that we should point out that the doctor who's been accused in this case has denied any wrongdoing.
Yeah, his attorney says he adamantly denies the charges and deserves to be considered an innocent man. What happens to him next?
What happens next is we know he's been charged with felony sexual assault in U.S. District Court in New Jersey. We understand that he's being electronically monitored via an anklet. In terms of the details of the prosecution, that is going to be in the hands of the U.S. Attorney's Office.
And gentlemen, what about you and your client? What's next for you guys?
Again, for our clients right now, they've embarked on a mission to make the public aware that this is an issue. I think the mom has a lot of guilt because she didn't even appreciate this was an issue. Had no idea when her daughter boarded this plane that something like this could be happening. So their goal is to make the public aware of this. And very importantly to them is they want to prevent this from happening to another innocent family.
And we know, as we pointed out earlier, the airline has released a statement to the press, but have they spoken to you? Have they responded to your lawsuit?
Well, we haven't filed the lawsuit. What we are trying to do right now is we're investigating this, is to gather the information, as I said, and that requires the help of United. So in response to our communications, where we heard that public statement, we heard about United's commitment to safety, we heard United CEO say that it's a new day and they want to put customer safety first, they came back to us and said, well, we're not going to share information with you about our internal reporting. We would need a subpoena for that. So right now, our hands are tied. We're at the mercy of United. And unless they play ball with us, we may have to look at the next steps.
Well,
legally.
you think they'd want to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again, not only to a minor, but to anybody on one of their flights. Mark Lambert and James Goodnow, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.